Hello, James. Welcome to this show.
Good evening, David. How you doing? Pleasure to be here.
Now, I'm saying this show because you did a radio broadcast with me, a couple of months ago now. Actually, it was a couple of weeks ago. You did one with Michael, and Michael Feely, and you covered a lot of things about the pyramids and things like that. And you did actually mention on that you've got some other big news coming out. And I think on this show, you're going to actually be releasing this, some of this big news, maybe not all of it. I don't know what you're going to tell me, but I'm quite excited to put this out on video because people can see you for a change as well on this particular show. And anyway, let me introduce you first. James Welsh, you wrote a book called Corroborating Evidence, what I've got here, which is this one, for everyone to see. And you signed it for me. I've got a signature. But you brought that out in 2015, if I remember rightly. Or was it 14? 14,
2014. Aye, 2014.
Right. But I think I got this in 15, wasn't it?
Yeah,
I think it was. Something like that. But tell us a little bit about. You don't have to go too much into this because I think we've probably covered it pretty well. But we need to do a little bit of this in order to lead us to where we're going now with your.
Exactly. Yeah.
With what you're coming up with now.
Okay. Well, corroborating evidence was the result of a series of close-range UFO encounters that I experienced during December 1999. And during that month, I had repeated close-range activity on 4th, 10th, 11th, 14th, 15th, and 25th of December. And I subsequently made the longest UFO report of the entire year of 1999. So the Ministry of Defence replied to me with to my standard UFO report, and I got my reply from them on the 6th of January 2000, and they notified me that there was no corroborating evidence to suggest that the UK's airspace had been breached by hostile or unauthorised foreign military aircraft. But I knew this. I had a problem with this because on two dates, on 11th and on 15th, I witnessed military Tornado jets chasing after these things. So I knew the military were involved, and therefore, if the military were involved, then the letter that I received from the Ministry of Defence was a barefaced lie addressed to me, basically. And the day I got my reply, I was like, I'm going to disprove them, it's waving my wee letter in there, one day I'm going to get to the bottom of this, I think I said to myself. And that was 22 years ago, pretty much. Yeah. So here we are, entering 2022. And I've found myself embroiled in this research again. I got caught up in it earlier on this year. I'd kind of snowballed from there, but corroborating evidence, the actual book, when I brought that out in 2014, it was basically the result of a very long investigation that I undertook into my own personal sightings. But I branched out from there and I started to look for other UFO reports that were made around the world during the same time. And what I did was I used keywords that were written in my own personal written account. And I used these keywords to look for in other reports to find matching descriptions. And I started to record all these and make a note of these sighting descriptions all around the world during that month. So I'd done that for pretty much a decade. I was basically accumulating wealth of UFO reports. When in 2010, I learned about two photographs that were allegedly taken during STS-103, which was the Hubble servicing mission, which took place between the 19th and the 27th of December, 1999, right smack in the middle of me having all these sightings. So 2010, I first learned about these two images, STS-103-734-58 and STS-103-734-59. And there's a blue, white, oval-shaped UFO in frame 59. Now, this was exactly the type of UFO that I had repeatedly seen in Glasgow during that time period. So I was highly interested in these images, but it wasn't until, incredibly, it wasn't until a further 2 years later that I actually got back to actually reviewing these images. Oops. And I tripped over my own microphone there. So yeah,
I'll cut that out later. Don't worry.
It's all good. So I found out about another image that was taken during that same mission, and that was frame 73 from the same roll, and that came to light in October 2010. Now, the uploader at the time, when they posted this photograph, they said that NASA had stated that the object in this frame was nothing more than a reflection. So, as I say, it was 2 years later, I decided that I was going to start looking into this, and I managed to obtain the URL address for 3 frames. And when I put all 3 URL addresses together in the one place, I realised that all 3 URLs were identical, apart from the frame number. So I started to make my way up and down the sequence. I would just change the frame numbers and then hit enter in the address bar. And eventually I was able to unlock the entire sequence of photographs that were taken during this redeployment. So 2012, I had 10 images that I had set aside from this mission, which started at frame 66, running through to frame 76. And the structured object, which I learned about 2 years earlier, appears on frame 73. So, you know, it appears towards the end of the sequence. But when I made my way through these 10 photographs, you could see that the object appeared, or there was anomalies that appeared on every single photograph, apart from one of the photographs mid-frame, mid-sequence, which was frame 69. The object seems to disappear. Now, I found it really odd that the object would appear in frame 68 and then disappear in frame 69 and then reappear in frame 70. I thought that was really strange how there was just this one frame in the mid-sequence where it was the odd one out. So I did a lot of head scratching over this image, and then eventually came to the realization that the object still had to be in the frame. It just could not be seen. You know, so I started to pay more attention to frame 69, and there's a slight bit of detail which can be seen on the original NASA image, or on the original NASA website. There's just a tiny bit of detail that's available to the naked eye. And I started to concentrate on that one area, trying to extract it from the picture a bit more. But at the time, because I was zoomed right in on that particular area, while I was modifying the balance and the contrast and the lighting exposures and the red, green, blue, and so on, I didn't realise that I was actually editing the entire picture with this small area that I was focused on. So once I had managed to present this as visibly as possible, and then I saved it, and then I brought the image up full size, I get the fright of my life when I seen that I had managed to extract a large oval-shaped object on frame 69. But the thing about this was there's a big dark area which appears on this oval shape, and at first I could not figure out what it was. And but I'd done photography at college for a while as a result of my encounters, and once I put on my photographer's cap or thinking cap, I realised that the dark area that I was looking at on this UFO was the shadow profile of the Hubble Space Telescope being cast onto the hull of this UFO. So, obviously double-checked everything. I knew that sunrise was occurring just over Australia's Gold Coast at the time, and the orbiter, the Discovery itself, was absolutely bathed in sunlight. So, and these photographs were obviously taken at the same time. So I knew for a fact that the sun was coming up, and therefore it was casting the shadow. And the fact that this shadow appeared where it did told me that this was a solid physical object in orbit. Otherwise, there would have been no shadow to cast.
Mm.
So, so that was it. So I hit the ceiling, and I think, as far as away as Australia, they could hear me shout "Eureka!"
Yeah.
So yeah, I was stuck to the ceiling for about 3 weeks after discovering this, and then I think I uploaded a video. I think it was September the 12th. Round about then, I realised that I would have to timestamp the discovery, because I knew other people were looking at these STS-103 images, and I thought, well, I'm not having some part-time interneter beat me to this. I need to get my name to this because I've been doing it for so long. So, so that was that. So I published the information in 2012, or the video, and then I got in touch with a large UFO network. I got in touch with their image expert. I asked for his professional opinion, but I was told that I was chasing my tail with this, and obviously I didn't know as well as this person did, because he was obviously the expert and I wasn't. So I was quite hurt by that, at the fact that I was getting analysis by proclamation, because that person never actually done a proper analysis on these images. Because if he did, they would have listened to me and he would have came to a completely different conclusion. But basically, I was told that I was chasing my tail, and it was a waste of time. And I was politely told to jog on, as it were. So I seen that there was absolutely no point in trying to pass this on to a large UFO group. Basically, if their image expert was telling me no. So I decided I'll just keep this to myself just now, and it's my discovery, and I'll get it out there. So I published, as I say, 2014, put the book out, knowing that I was absolutely 100% spot on in my conclusion in 2012 with regards to this finding. I mean, it's as plain as day. On my YouTube channel, Corroborated Evidence, if you go into that, and you'll see the composite video that I made of it. And when you see this object being extracted from the image, you can see the shadow profile of the Hubble as clear as day. But I mean, I'd been staring at this for quite some time before I actually finally clicked the simplicity of what I was looking at, and then it hit me like a ton of bricks, there's the obvious, so it was nice to finally find something that of that caliber of evidence after so long looking for corroborating evidence, So as I say, I published about in 2014, and as you know, Make Yourself Down Homeforth down in 2015 when I started to promote corroborating evidence. Yeah, when made the mistake of going to a UFO Truth Conference, and yeah,
as we all did.
Yeah, well, I mean, there wasn't much truth there at all, really, to be honest.
Was that the award day? Was it? I think that was, wasn't it? Or was that the year after? Anyway.
That was the year before. It was the year before. The awards for 2016. You're talking about the Bravery and Ufology Award.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Bravery and Ufology. What is that? I mean, that's like getting an award for like savviness crossing the road. Do you know what I mean? It's like, what? So yeah, best back scratcher.
Bravery for threatening people's lives. I guess.
Yeah, well, I mean, David, if I'd been committing fraud for 30, nearly 40 years, and then my career was pretty much up the swanny because some little investigator found out that I was moonlighting, selling all this dodgy people stuff, I'd be sending them death threats as well. So, I can understand it. I mean, Mr. Warren is living on another planet if he thought that there's not one UFO fan out there today that doesn't like the Beatles. He never thought these two worlds would collide or cross over.
I think he's living on another world. I haven't heard anything about him for the last over a year or so now.
Well, we've not heard much from him for a while. I mean, as I say, it'll be interesting what happens at the end of the month. But Capel Green, the release of that's up against the release of the Book of Boba Fett, and I know what I'll be watching when that day. So it'll be Capel Green anyway. But again, I'm quite happy to slag Dion Johnson, Gary Heseltine, and Larry Warren to the cows come home, because they can, say what they want to say. But the tagline is they put out the tagline. This is not science fiction. But I mean, I've had to. I've added a very short chapter in the book about the small role I played in the Larry Warren fraud, and I just mentioned the fact that if bionic deer and premature planetary alignment isn't science fiction, then I really have no idea what is. So
I wonder if we ought to clarify a little bit as to what we're talking about here, because some people might think, what the hell are they talking about?
What are they talking about? Yeah.
There's I mean, I can start it off if you like. There was a book called Left at Eastgate, written by Larry Warren and Peter Robbins, and it was about the Rendlesham Forest UFO incident of 1980. Now that book was out for what was it, about 20 years? I think, James, something like that.
Coming up 25 years, I think. I think it was 97.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it had been out for a while, and that was the go-to book for many years for many people to read about the Rendlesham Forest UFO incident.
Yeah.
You and I were taken in by it. We both read it and taking it all in and thinking it was all true and everything. We happened to meet each other. We knew nothing about really at the time. We knew nothing about the connections we'd make concerning the investigations that we'd be led into eventually. Mm-hmm. We both kind of met Sasha Christie, who was a very good friend of Larry Warren's at the time, and it was her that realised that Larry Warren was telling quite a lot of lies, so that a lot of things in the book were not true. We all kind of got together. I mean, this is cutting a long story short. I mean, because that investigation was over about 3 years, wasn't it, James?
Yeah, went on for quite some time. Yeah.
Obviously, the information began with Sasha. I mean, we've got to say that.
Oh, yes.
And obviously, you found out, as I did, through personal lies told to your face.
Yeah.
That things weren't quite right. We all started talking between us, and I mean, maybe you'd like to take it off from there.
I'll start. Yeah, I mean, we learned basically. Warren came up to, I met Warren for the first time down at Holmfirth, 2015 when I met yourself, David, and he personally told me there and then that he met Carrie Fisher, and Carrie Fisher told him that George Lucas's favourite book on UFOs happened to be Left.
And you've been a big Star Wars fan.
So 9 months later, he came up to Glasgow, and when he came up to Glasgow, he started telling the same story again. But this time, it wasn't Carrie Fisher. At this time, it was Joe Bloggs.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, wait a minute, there's no way you can forget Carrie Fisher.
Because even then, we were still sort of on the fence, weren't we? Because you and I went out for dinner with Peter and Peter Robbins. We went out for a drink as well with Peter. We were all in the pub with Larry Warren and Peter Robbins and a couple of other people. In fact, we were one of the few invited, weren't we? Because we were considered insiders, if you like.
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty shameful. Obviously, you for yourself the behaviour Mr. Warren engaged in the run up to the Glasgow conference.
Yeah.
Before, during, and after the conference, actually, to be honest. And
well, I remember I got there when I got to the place, the venue. I remember getting there, and Larry Warren was standing outside by the car, which I think was rented by Tino at the time. And I walked up to him and said, "What's going on? What's the matter, Larry?" Because he looked a lot of thunder. And in actual fact, I didn't know the full story about what had happened. And apparently he had threatened the lady that he was going to put her spine through her neck or something. I wasn't quite sure who that was at the time, and that was obviously Thatcher, wasn't it? Because she had obviously been coming out with all this evidence, that, and she was going to ask a question. And at that time, even at that time, I said, "Well, that's terrible, Larry. They're not going to let you in and all that, you know." And obviously, we went into that meeting, that presentation, and I believe that he wanted Peter to pull out, Peter Robbins. And I think he was a bit put out that Peter hadn't pulled out, wasn't he, over that? Because I think that's the reason he went, because they knew that they were banned, that he was banned, but he still went anyway. So he must have known it was going to cause a problem. Yeah.
Come up to see his wee pals.
So it was all preconceived that they were going to do a video to show at the conference, you know, But anyway, I'll let you carry on, James, because this is more your presentation more than mine.
Well, as far as you know, I mean, all that, as far as all that's concerned, I mean, obviously I did turn my back on ufology for a good couple of years there. I mean, I still literally just have my big toe dipped in ufology just now, and that's about it. You know, I don't really want to engage too much with the UFO community just now, because, as you can imagine, over the last few weeks, longer, I've been getting quite a lot of trolling because I've been making quite a lot of bold claims, and I've not been able to back them. Well, I have been able to back them up, but I've just not been willing to until the time was right. And
you're holding your
holding my cards close to my chest. This is it, aye. But yeah, I mean, as I say, I was very disparaged by the UFO community in the way I was treated by Gary Hazeltine back in 2016 after trying to basically look out for his career and stop his reputation.
Yes, we all did. We all said warnings.
I mean, this is it. I mean, this is the guy makes a song and dance about how he's a Home Office trained policeman. You name me one policeman that isn't Home Office trained. You know, they're all Home Office trained. So it's like, you know yourself, the man with his titles. So Mr. Alpha Omega Numero Uno, leading researcher for Capel Green. Basically, I got in touch with Gary on August the 31st, 2016.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, it wasn't August the 31st, it was August 26th. Beg your pardon. And I notified Gary that I had spoken with May Pang, John Lennon's ex-girlfriend, with regards to items that Warren had sold at auction, claiming they were a gift from her. And obviously I'd learned about this through Sasha's research. So I'd got in touch with May Pang, and she got back to me and she says, "Look, at the end of the day," she says, "this wasn't a gift for me. Furthermore, I've had to step in because Warren tried to sell sunglasses at Sotheby's by forging her signature, and it wasn't her signature." So she made it quite clear that Warren had previously used her name, and she was basically a victim of him trying to make money by using her name to sell fake goods. And I had also managed to track down another 2 items that Warren sold through auction.
Which, in actual fact, when you look at it like that, there's actually a crime by forging her signature as well.
Yeah. I mean, the lowest of the low, you know. But I had, as I said, I'd also managed to get the letters of provenance for 2 items that Warren sold at auction many years ago. And these letters were originally allegedly by Charlie Lennon, but it turned out they were in Warren's own handwriting. So I passed all this on to Gary Hazeltine, the handwriting samples, the Beatles letters, and the the statement from May Pang. So I gave him written evidence, I gave him documented evidence, I gave him eyewitness evidence, and I gave him physical evidence. All the things he says he looks for as a UFO researcher. This is what he says he brings to the table.
I know what evidence is.
So yeah, I know what evidence is. Yeah. Basically 3 weeks after notifying Gary Heseltine in confidence, I started getting death threats out the blue from Capel Green Star and Larry Warren. Or the 9/11 hero, Capel Green Star.
There's that as well. That came a bit later.
Metallica founder as well, yeah. Aston Martin driver, bionic deer scene eyewitness. So so there was
I think there's quite a bit of really when you go back and look at some of when you look at Left at Eastgate, the book itself. Well, I've got 2 copies. I've got my research copy, which is full of writing, and the hardback copy. There's some quite hilarious bits in it, isn't there, about apart from the Aston Martin or the.
I've got my copies actually sitting.
He was actually 19 years old at the time when he
yeah.
I've been told that he couldn't even drive. So.
Yeah, still can't drive. This is it. Still can't even use one of the pedal cars, you know. He's got stabilizers on his bike, you know.
Yeah, a bit of biker and all that.
Yeah, I mean, I was terrified every time I walked past a nursery for years. But in all seriousness, the Larry Warren fraud. Ooh. My battery's running low here. Hold on, let's see what I can. We're all good. The Larry Warren fraud was a bit of an eye opener. And I didn't expect to get treated the way I did from a reputable UFO researcher. You know, I tried to look out for his career, and then suddenly I was getting death threats, and then suddenly I was getting trolled for 18 months off Gary Heseltine, who was stealing my photographs and then writing spaghetti articles about me, derogatory articles saying that this is James Welsh pictured outside my work and everything. So these people knew where I worked, they knew where I lived, and I was getting death threats, I was getting letters sent to me and all sorts. So I turned my back on the subject for a long time, and I was really, really angry at the way it was being treated. But this year, I get quite angry again, or quite frustrated at the lack of decent evidence that was getting put forth in the media. You know, or everything that was happening in the run-up to the UAPTF Pentagon report coming out, with Pentagon leak after Pentagon leak after Pentagon leak, and every one of them was blank ground. So it was annoying me, the fact that the media were making so much noise and so much song and dance out of the night vision footage that Jeremy Corbell made famous around the world. And the Pentagon obviously admitted that it was genuine footage. And that drove me bananas. I mean, I was beside myself at the fact that the Pentagon were trying to ram this down the public's throat and trying to pass it off as legitimate, and trying to pass off that they were sincerely, you know, looking into this because they want to get to the bottom of the mystery.
See, there's a big why there, James. Why were they doing that? Why were they doing that, do you think?
I think what happened recently was to gauge the public's perception, to see where we stand, just to test the public's reaction. You know, it was like 1938 with the World's Radio broadcast. You know, it was like one of the ones and everybody freaked out. So again, when I'm putting all this information out recently, saying, "Oh, you know, UFOs are legitimate and they don't know what they are," and so forth, I think they were just trying to see what the public, what the general consensus among the public was about it, because it was fever pitch come April, May, June this year, and then the report came out, and then suddenly there was a pin put in the UFO party. You know, it was like, there's no evidence of aliens, 20 million spent, we need more money. If we're ever going to get to the bottom of this mystery, you must give us more money. So it was all this that really got to me this year. I mean, there was other footage that was released to Jeremy Corbell, and it was inside the CAC of a serving naval ship. And again, the command and control was a sensitive area where you shouldn't be walking about with camera phones, recording sensitive information. So the more I looked into it, the more I seen that there was apparently there was only 2 people within the UAPTF Pentagon task force. So if there was only 2 people in it, how the hell could they not plug the leak that was coming out of that task force? You know, if it was down to 2 people, you know. So I really suspected that this year, all these leaks that were coming for the Pentagon were all orchestrated, and they were all there just to muddy the waters as far as UAPs and UFOs are concerned. They were trying to put as much distance between aliens and black bags blowing in the wind, you know, as possible. And I think they achieved that this year. I think they successfully did manage to really put a pin in the UFO subject. But I mean, David, how that you know what's going on. It's a bit surreal. I can't believe I've done what I've done. I'm still really finding it hard to believe that I've been able to go and execute this and walk away. And here we are now. And I really don't think that your Pentagon chiefs or anybody else seen this coming. Because, I mean, as I said, they've just spent 20 million looking for the answer to the ET question, and they said that they were unable to find it. And so there's a government task force with £20 million budget, found nothing. And then you've got me, chef at Glasgow, with a budget of 0, and I find 100% more than what they come up with. And you've got the thing that gets me just now is the Director of Intelligence coming out and saying that they're really looking into this and they're really concerned and so on. And I really do think it's all charades, because I don't think for 1 second that the Director of Intelligence hasn't been briefed on what's happening. And if she hasn't, then that we're in a really, really sad state of affairs, you know. So I just find it crazy. The way the report was worded, that they were talking about how UFOs present an imminent danger to pilots and, you know, commercial aircraft. But I mean, there's not been any documented cases that I know of UFOs having mid-air collisions with commercial aircraft. I mean, if you look through the history books, you won't find any.
No, there's been plenty of missing aircraft and things, and missing US Air Force. Well,
Henry Valentich, wasn't it?
Yeah, there's been things like that where planes have gone missing, which is a puzzle in itself.
Yeah.
But, so where does that leave us now, then, James? Now you've got some pretty hefty claims out there now, haven't you? That that are going to go in your book.
Yes,
which is in progress, which I think you've almost completed. Now, as I understand it, you've got you consider that you've got absolute evidence of alien life, which has been hanging around the space station. Is that correct?
It's a series of photographs that were taken during the Hubble redeployment during December 1999. After the crew went up to repair the Hubble Space Telescope and fix gyroscopes and change some of the hardware on it. So yeah, there was a series of photographs that were taken before and during the redeployment that contain anomalies that I did some work on in 2012 and again in 2018. And then again this summer, I've returned to review my earlier work, and I made light years advances on my earlier research. So for anyone that reads my book, they'll be like, how did this guy fail to see the obvious for 11 years? which is something I can't really understand. Aside the fact that I've had some sort of mental blockage, I have deliberately ignored these entities in this image for 11 years. I would look at them and not be interested. I would just be focused on other parts of the image. But this year, as I say, a lot happened, and it was while doing a review of these images, I performed an overlap composite of two of the frames, because I was trying to ascertain basically where these anomalous lights were originating from. And I became convinced that they were coming from a recessed lighting, which was fitted into the hub of the spotlight, which is on the front of one of these UFOs, which is seen in NASA frame 73. So earlier this year, I performed the overlap with frame 73, and then I layered frame 66 over the top of that and set the two of them to a 50-50 transparency and started to size them up. And the experiment was a complete success. It verified exactly my theory that I had about these anomalous lights originating from these recessed lighting hubs. But it was when I actually positioned these two and brought the two of them to square up in position, and when they squared up in position, it actually triggered a violent flashback to my second encounter on the first evening of my sightings, and pretty much had me standing directly underneath this UFO. Now, my conscious memory of that event was turning into my street and seeing this thing at the end of the street, the far end of the street. And I ran up and then ran into the house and shouted my brother to come outside. And his girlfriend managed to make it onto the path and seen this object, and it disappeared. And then we went indoors. But when I had this flashback, it pretty much had me at the far end of the street, directly underneath this object. And that's when, so after it, obviously, I thought, well, I never ran halfway up. I never ran that far up the street, But now actually I'm having memory of actually running up that street towards this thing and then doubling back. But it was a flashback itself that actually, when that was triggered, that helped me unlock all sorts of burning questions that I've had for the last 21 years with regards to my own sightings. One of them being the time factor, because my initial sighting was at 4:45 in the morning, and then a week later, on the 11th of December, I had my next sighting again at 4:45 in the morning. I also had one, on the 10th at 4:45 in the evening. But the two UFO encounters, close range encounters, both occurring at 4:45 a.m., exactly a week apart, was something that troubled me for 21 years, because I knew there was a time factor involved and I couldn't put my finger on it. But this year, after the flashback, it suddenly dawned on me that on both occasions, on the 4th and on the 11th of December, when I had been standing staring at this blue-white oval-shaped UFO above me, that I wasn't actually staring at a blue-white oval UFO, I was actually staring at the spotlight, which is attached to the front of one of these UFOs. So straight away I realised I was being observed on both occasions. Then I realised that both of these occasions occurred at 4:45. And then straight after that, I realised that on the 11th of December, I had about an hour and 40 minutes missing time. So all three of these things hit me one after the other, like dominoes falling. As soon as I had this flashback, it was like 4:45. That now suddenly rings a bell as to why that happened when it did. The fact that I was being observed, and then the fact that I had missing time, suddenly it all kind of fell into place a little bit more, shall we say. I won't say I suddenly went, oh, I was abducted, but more pieces of that picture started to emerge. But within 3 days of me having this flashback, I was able to go on and completely be able to translate what was going on in the Hubble redeployment images right through from frames 66 all the way through to 76. I could now track the UFO in every single one of these frames. But on top of that, I also was able to identify the shadow of the Canadarm, which is being cast onto the hull of this UFO in frame 73. So that was even more validation that this was a solid physical object in orbit. So I identified that as well. I also then went on to be able to describe in detail the functions and fabrication of the bodywork of this craft, and explain the form and function of the craft from the exterior of it. And that's when it hit me. I'm thinking, hold on a minute, I know a bit more about this craft that I should be taught. You know, I should be able to describe. I knew more than was humanly possible, because I was talking about it as if I designed the thing, you know, and I'm like, that's something's not right here, you know. But this year, as I say, after I'll go back to the flashbacks. After the first flashback occurred, basically, just pretty much the moment that happened, I felt a pressure releasing on the back left-hand side of my brain. And it honestly felt like, you know, like a plug being pulled, you know, that the suction coming off sort of thing. That's what it almost felt like. And I actually felt a physical sensation as I felt whatever this was run down the inside of my neck. So that's what made me really sit up and take notice at the fact that I had a physical sensation all the way through the back of my head, run down the side of my neck, the inside of my neck. You know, I was like, what was that all about? But as I say, within 3 days, I was able to smash the STS-103 Hubble redeployment images. I was also able to go on and solve the events in Illinois on January the 5th, 2000. And I was also able to answer one of the oldest philosophical questions that mankind's ever asked itself. And at the same time, expose $1 billion cover-up, all in one go. And it was so simplistic and so easy to do. That's what really gets me, is the fact that you have the military industrial complex, shall we say, with all their layers of security, and the Pentagon, layers of security, so on and so forth. And a guy like me can come along and suddenly start pointing all this stuff out and start pointing out all these holes and what's been said. So I'm still struggling at the fact that I've been able to do what I've been able to do, because it's a pretty impossible task. So I'm still kind of in denial, if you like, 6 months later. I mean, I'm getting used to the discovery now. I'm used to, I mean, I think the world's in for a big shock, David. You've seen it, I've seen it. I still have trouble looking at it. But have you seen any of them? Did you see my bus doodle?
You what?
Picture?
Sorry?
My bus doodle.
Oh, your bus. Yeah.
My bus doodle. Yeah, I used to go on the bus, and if the bus was all condensation, I'd always had a habit of drawing the alien on the bus on the window. And I drew this wee guy for years. And then obviously this year, I found out that I've been accurately depicting these wee guys for years.
Well, that's what I was going to go on to say, because you've showed me basically you believe you've seen an alien through the window or a reflection, haven't you? And you've actually made a 3D model of it. Have you got it there?
Yeah. He's about, but I dropped him the other day, so I need to super glue his legs on, man. I'm absolutely gutted.
But I mean, the thing is, you really believe that you have the evidence that of an alien, a visible alien. There he is.
Adam.
And you can you've actually done that model from your research and from your actual photos, haven't you? You've discovered.
Yeah.
So
basically, this year, as I say, as a result of the mediocre footage that was getting championed in the media, basically I was really frustrated at the fact that I had been sitting on superior evidence for 6 years, 7 years, 8 years, with regards to the shadow Hubble on the hull of this UFO. And I'm thinking, well, that's got to beat hands down some dodgy night vision footage of a commercial airliner, so I was getting really uptight that the fact that this mundane footage, which was very easily explainable, was being championed as a real deal, and there was my stuff sitting on the shelf going dusty. So that kind of forced me to get back up this year and take a re-evaluation of my earlier work, and I decided to go back and have a look at these images again, and I actually decided this time to take my research much further back, and I went as far back as frame 21 this time, which was almost 7 hours before the redeployment took place. But I have found several sequences of photographs through this mission that show that the orbiter was not alone in orbit during December the 25th specifically. And I had frames, frame 57 in the sequence. If anybody wants to have a look and go to STS 103-734-57, you will see at the bottom of the frame there appears to be interior lighting coming through windows. So that was a big clue for me on frame 57 that showed me that there was a solid physical object docked alongside Discovery. And then obviously when frame 58 comes into play, you can still see these lights at the bottom of the frame. So when I realised that this was a solid physical ship, which was seen in frame 57 and frame 58, and I realised that there was entities standing at the bottom of this frame, you can see them all lined up against windows. What happened is there you see something like 5 vertical windows, but you can only see light coming out of 2 of them because the other windows are all obscured, and they're obscured by silhouetted figures, which are all standing against the window as the ship performs a flyby past Hubble. So when I realised that obviously this was a solid physical ship, which was seen in frames 57 and 58 and 59, I realised that the 2 entities that are seen at the top of frames 58 and 59 were exactly that. They had to be entities, but only in a higher up deck of the craft. And that's when I got in touch with my peers, Malcolm Robinson and Ron Halliday. And I notified them both that this was what I concluded on this image. And I was going to go and get the frame professionally rendered and cleaned up to see if we could see these entities in more clarity. So that was undertaken. I hired a freelancer, and I was given the image back. And it's the image that appears in OLM magazine this month of Adam. And I actually tracked up.
Sorry, let me just interrupt. OLM magazine is the Outer Limits magazine, which is run by Chris Evers, which is a downloadable magazine. Well, we better put that plug in for Chris.
Oh, totally. Yeah, so that'll be making that available from hopefully December the 1st. And I'm starting a YouTube page. Sorry, a YouTube page. I'm starting a Facebook page, Corroborated Evidence, the Discovery of the Millennium. So I've started putting posts up there already. And obviously I'll be putting more information on there in the next coming days. But yeah, the news hits the world with the OLM article coming out. With Chris Evers in the next couple of days. And we'll see where it goes for there. I mean, I literally have no idea if this is even going to get half the airtime that Corbell's nocturnal nonsense got. But we'll wait and see. But at the end of the day, you know, I was speaking to one of my pals about it, and he says, no, at the end of the day, he says, you put this information out there. He says, that's it, it's out there. End of story. He says, it's not as if you put it out there and it's just going to be over and done with. He says, no, that's you've put it out there. So we'll wait and see. But I'm more worried about NASA suddenly coming in and covering up these images. But over the next couple of days, I'm still going to put a couple of links up telling people to go to these web pages and download the images. Because the more people that download this image and get it from a NASA website and see that I'm telling the truth before NASA pull this and airbrush it or whatever they do. But I already have an email from NASA stating that frame STS 103734-58 is indeed a legitimate NASA image hosted on a legitimate NASA website. And I have a record of the image I sent them it. So if there's any altercations done to this image, I now have an email record of.
That's right. That's evidence, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll wait and see what happens there. But to be honest, I want to see resignations. I'll not be happy until I see the likes of Bill Nelson, the NASA director.
I thought I was going to say Boris Johnson for a minute, but no.
Well, he'd be a good start. Yeah, I mean, what's the point of going down to chain myself to the gates of Downing Street only for this idiot to come out and ho 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 ho, there's the alien. You know.
No, but joking aside, James, do you actually feel that you were adopted? You know, in the real sense of the word.
I do now. I do, because it explains to me my drive behind all this, because I was literally a passenger in all of this for a long time, you know. But I wrote my first book, you know, sometimes I just find myself sitting there, and it was almost as if my arms were getting on strings, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I have to say, when you look through this book, it's very, very detailed with all the facts and figures and everything. It's actually quite mind blowing. You know,
it's not a typical beginning, middle, and end book. You know, it's a case of I'm trying to squeeze as much information into something that's tangible without getting too confusing, because if I was to write that out in chapters, it would just be like this time, that date, this time, that date, this time, and it would just get so confusing.
Well, it has got an essence of a timeline, hasn't it? Because it's got.
Yeah, I mean, I literally, I didn't set out to do that, but it was just the way it worked out with the way I done the historical outlook, or the historical investigation sort of thing into similar sightings. And because I had done that chronologically, and obviously and separately, I was doing the month of December chronologically as well. So it just made sense to sort of put it into all the one big streaming timeline, and that's the way it just turned out, you know. So it was fun putting that book together. It really was, you know, all these years I spent scratching my head, you know, and the next wee bit of the information and the next bit. But again, a lot of the information that's in corroborating evidence never even came into play until this year, because in that book there's two sighting reports on the 2nd of December at 3 a.m. In Thetford, England. where the eyewitness said they seen an object with car headlights. And then 55 minutes later in Missouri, another eyewitness there said they seen a UFO with headlights. So at the time I made a note of this, I thought, well, there's two reports, different sides of the Atlantic, 55 minutes apart, both describing headlights. I thought that's definitely not secret military aircraft. You know, I just thought the chances of that have been really small. But it wasn't again, it wasn't until this year that I realised the actual significance of the headlights and what these reports actually meant to my investigation. Because it matched what I had found in orbit with the headlight of this craft in 2012. And again, 2018, after I spoke to the ESA and showed the Hubble communications manager my findings, and I was totally chastised once again, told I'd found reflections all over again. And I decided to go back and lick my wounds, as it were. And I went back and done another review on these images. And I did a photo fit of frames 59 and frame 69. And when I matched the two of these up, I was actually able to create more of the front profile of this craft. And I was able to match the headlight that I'd found in 2012. I'd found its matching counterpart on the opposite side of the craft in 2018. So literally I had found the headlights on the front of this craft. But again, I didn't understand the significance of this until 2021, till June 2021, when after I had the flashback, I was able to start piecing everything together with regards to my own sightings, the STS-103 images, and the Illinois events and the eyewitness descriptions there. And they all cross-reference, they all cross each other off, you know, so all the evidence works in tandem. So it's quite odd just now when we're building a website, because like you'll go to like the STS-103 pages and I have all the Illinois stuff that matches it. And then you'll go to the Illinois page and it's just the exact opposite. It's all the Illinois stuff. And then you've got the STS-103 stuff, which matches it. So it's all hand in glove and it's all obviously connected. But there's also the matter of the huge mothership, which I found in orbit, apart from the two entities. So that's another thing altogether. Obviously, there has been plenty of videos made prior to this discovery of other people discovering cubes in orbit. And this kind of validates what these people are saying. Because when it doesn't appear in just one photo, I believe it appears in 5 photographs altogether.
So when you're talking about a huge mothership, do you mean huge, sort of miles in, or is it hard to tell?
What's that?
the mothership you were talking about.
How big is it?
Yeah, you've got no idea. You can't really judge how big it is, I presume. I mean, are we talking about something that's miles in circumference or something, or?
Well, I would say it's comparable with the Death Star. So it's big. I couldn't give you a size on it, but it's and I know I swore there. It's absolutely humongous in size. It's big.
Well, what I'm saying, obviously, if it's big like that, it's actually almost like a planet city, isn't it? So it could well have been there for thousands of years, even. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. This is it. I mean, obviously, the ones which are pictured closer to the sun are they appear much bigger. But I really have got into my head now that all these cubes can all interconnect and make a bigger cube. But again, that's just supposition, you know, I've no idea. But I do know that I appeared in frame 58 after I had that rendered. And as surprised as I was at that, then I think it was 3 days later, I went back and I had frame 55 rendered as well, because there appears to be 3 separate craft floating about outside in that photograph. So I was convinced that they were actually in the process of docking with a larger craft. And so I had suspicions that there was something bigger in that photograph. And again, I went away and get that one rendered. And when it came back, there again was a tube seen outside the orbiter window. And the STS-10 crew are just doing their jobs. They're totally, they're not even caring about what's going on, which tells me straight away that they had obviously been briefed before they went to space, that there was they were going to encounter this, and it was just going to be another day at the office.
So you really feel that they knew it was there?
They knew it was there for definite, because the very first photographs that I pick out in these new NASA images, there's a big massive spotlight which is put on to the Discovery, and the photographer is looking out the window, taking direct pictures of this spotlight as it appears in front of them. So the photographer was obviously aware that this thing was outside the orbiter. So the crew were well aware of it. But again, what gets me is the fact that I found evidence that this structured object, that Adam, that's what I called the entity, Adam. Adam and his friend, the craft that they're in, I realised obviously that it was in the frame beforehand, frame 57, but it can also be seen as far back as frame 21, which, as I say, was 6 hours and 40 minutes beforehand, which says to me that this craft was docked alongside Discovery and Hubble for 6 hours and 40 minutes. So for it to be parked alongside the Discovery for that long, it wasn't just a simple flyby. It was a visit. It was a rendezvous in space. So it begs the question, is the American government working with aliens? Because obviously they weren't fazed by this, by the presence of these aliens, and they all seem to be having a good laugh, just judging looking at the mission records, and you can actually watch the mission footage, and they were all high spirits, good moods, so they weren't concerned that they were going to get obliterated by aliens or anything like that, you know. So it just begs the question, how long have NASA known?
I mean, it also raises another question. We've got the Russians and the Chinese and probably a few other countries looking at the space now. Would they not have seen these things as well? And or would you think,
to be honest with you, well,
or would they be part of a big cabal that are covering it up?
Yeah, it's a global cabal to cover it up. And this is what gets me recently, is the fact that if the Americans know, as you like to say, if the Americans know, the Chinese know, if the Chinese know, the Russians know. So pretty much everybody knows, right? So all this pretense we have about, oh, Russia doesn't like America, America doesn't like Russia, China doesn't like Russia, but Russia doesn't like America, and America doesn't like China, and so on and so forth.
And India doesn't like Pakistan. Yeah, it goes on and on. Yeah,
exactly. So we have all these nuclear arsenals because we're scared of the Russians and we're scared of the Chinese, but that's not the case. If the Chinese and the Russians and the Americans all know, and we've all got nukes, and what are the nukes for? So I mean, what is going on? This is what I mean, obviously what I've done is I'm unleashing Pandora's box on the world here, and I know I'm, and my bad, you know, I mean, that's my naughty side coming out. But at the end of the day, I weighed up the morality of what I'm doing, and I thought, well, I can either keep my mouth shut and live a lie, and then I'm actually perpetrating a lie on behalf of these people, and I'm hoodwinking humanity for the rest of my life. Do you know what I mean? I thought, well, I can't live for that. And the only other alternative is to come out and tell people that they're being lied to. So that was my choice.
I know you mentioned to me a little while back that you feel that your life could even be in danger over it. Do you really feel that?
I,
And I'm
I,
not talking about Larry Warren here. I'm talking about.
no, seriously, intelligence services out to get me. Yeah, I mean, yeah, for a while I was really worried because obviously this is the truth about aliens is the biggest enemy that NASA and the US government has because they don't want to get this getting out. Obviously, there's massive religious implications.
Yeah, well, it changes
Social
everything, doesn't it?
implications.
It changes.
It changes everything in a heartbeat. And it's a case of, right, we need to stop all these wee tribal squabbles we're having and all the rest of it and really get a grip and say, right, the planet's dying and so will we if we don't get a grip. So now we know that the universe isn't quite as big as what we thought it was. And the fact that now we know that we're getting visitors, I think it's about time we all got our house in order. And I mean, I think I'm not sure what article it is that I've put together, but I've said in the article that I'm literally stopping myself short of calling for a revolution. And that's where I stand. I mean, earlier on we were joking about setting up, not joking, but I mean, talking about setting up Alien Life Matters. And, you know, I think this time next year, maybe there could be quite a big following behind that. And, you know, I mean, they had Storm Area 51. So 2022, I want to storm NASA HQ. And I want that to be a thing, you know, pitchforks, you garden hose, you name it.
If we're all allowed to fly, James.
What's that?
If we're all allowed to fly.
Aye, but I mean, I'm quite happy to come over with a big basket of rotten fruit and store it outside the front door, you know.
Well, I'll tell you what we should do after your book's been released. Sometime next year, perhaps in the spring, we'll do another show about this and see what has happened. See if you're still alive and everything, and see what.
I'll be in the Clyde with concrete boots.
Or, yeah, or if you're in jail or something, you know. Guantanamo Bay or something. But,
yeah, totally.
We're in a nice orange outfit.
Aye, and this is the only saving grace that I have is the fact that what I am putting out there is totally legal. What I've done is completely. I've not broken any laws.
Well, that's it. That is all you can do, isn't it? Just be straight and honest about everything.
You know, Gary McKinnon, who was wanted for 10 years for hacking, and you know, I mean, I didn't hacking, and I found more than he has. So yeah, I mean, I've not broken any laws. I've spoke to 2 or 3 police officers about it, and they've been like, you've done absolutely nothing wrong. You know, you've went to a public website and you're reporting what you found on a public website. So, you know, but it's not going to sit comfortably with everyone.
But obviously, you found out things that they thought nobody would ever see, by the sound of it.
Well, I mean, it begs the question as to how these images even made their way onto a public server to begin with. How did they get past the people that are meant to censor all this sort of stuff?
I mean, it also raises another question. Maybe they were put there purposely for someone like you to find, you know, for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Could that be the case?
It did cross my mind at one point because I suppose it would be a lot easier for, you know, Joe Bloggs to come out and admit it than for NASA. But now, the way by me coming out and putting this information out there, I am not shy about saying I am calling them all out as downright lying bastards. They have lied to humanity for the past 70 years since Roswell. The whole song and dance we had about the UAPTF being formed and doing this 2-year study and everything was all just theatre for the human race to sap up. I mean, all this, I mean, that's what I could not understand this year was we're getting headlines saying, the Pentagon are now looking into UFO incursions over the US. Seriously? And it's like, well, at what point did the United government not take an interest in incursions over their own airspace seriously? Do you know what I mean? Just because some guy, some filmmaker gets a couple of videos put on his YouTube channel, suddenly the government are taking notice. You know, I thought, no, this is all smoke and mirrors. So I've no idea what the end game is of the government or the Pentagon or the Director of Intelligence at the moment. I mean, I've emailed her twice now. I emailed her the first time to tell her that the clock was running out on, and basically it was all going to come out in the 1st December. And then I emailed back 2 days ago, I think it was, after the New York Post article came out saying that she was convinced that the night vision footage was aliens. So I had to email and say to her, listen, sweetheart, it's night vision footage of a commercial aircraft. Don't bother, you know, don't embarrass yourself, you know. And if you're looking for more information, feel free to drop me a line, you know, because you keep talking about the need, this need for more information and more data. And I'm like, well, come to me, I've got plenty. So, but what this discovery that I'm as I say, where are we now? It's 26. So this will be aired by the time the magazine comes out. And as I say, it's going to expose the Pentagon report either as a lie told to humanity, or it's going to be known as the biggest intelligence failure in human history, or a bit of both. And that's what I just can't get my head around, the fact that me, a wee guy from Glasgow, was able to expose the Pentagon UAP report as not worth the paper it was written on. It's obsolete. The Pentagon report is now obsolete. You know, I have found aliens. There's no doubt about it, and I've had NASA confirm the image to me. And even if they were to delete that image, I've still got plenty of evidence through all the other photographs, you know, so we'll wait and see where it goes. But again, I'm terrified of getting covered up, and I'm terrified of getting, I don't know, I'm feared of the unknown. It's mankind, you know, or fear of the unknown, fear of the irrational, you know.
I mean, when does your book come out, James? It's corroborated evidence now, isn't it? It's going to be
corroborated evidence, yeah. I'm hoping to have it out for Christmas Day. I'll be putting up information on my website, corroboratingevidence.com. Or sorry, corroboratedevidence.com. Yes.
Yeah, don't get the two confused. That's the
yeah. It's so confusing, these two titles now.
I have to keep looking at it. I think which one's which.
It's just someone I don't know if I'm coming or going, but I'm hoping to have. Well, I was aiming to have the book out just under a month, 25th of December, the same day that the NASA images were taken. I figured it would be a great day to release a book, and because it was Christmas, and it'd be a great Christmas gift to the world. But Chris, obviously, Chris Evers, editor at Outer Limits magazine, let me know that he was obviously going to be publishing at the start of the month, which kind of advanced my my timeline by 4 weeks. So I'm now rushing at the last minute to try and get everything done in time for the magazine coming out and the article hitting the public, because everything refers back to the website.
Yeah.
And I just want to be able to show anyone that's visiting the website that all this stuff all links together. And obviously I was able to piece it all together after 21 years. So that's something else I can't understand, is the fact that nobody else beat me to it with regards to these images, because they've been online now for 11 years and plenty of people have seen them. But again, it was myself that made these discoveries, and I'm thinking, well, there has to be some sort of something going on there, connection.
Well, I guess people just missed it the same as you did all those years. You know, it's just that, like you say, you revisited them to find, and they found them sort of after all those years. So It could be that
sitting under my
everyone
nose.
else has just done exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
They've just missed them, you
Mhm.
know. And probably when you start pointing things out, and people start seeing your book, and maybe people see this show, and perhaps I hope everyone who sees this video will actually start sharing it around, and perhaps it might get known to the important people that we want this information to reach. You know, and perhaps something might develop from it.
Yeah, I mean, you know yourself, there's been no shortage of me trying to get a hold of people this year.
I know. Yeah.
Notify certain people within the UFO community. And I've been blatantly ignored. So I'm not going to go rushing after them now. They can all come to me if they want a piece of what I've got to say. So I'm not in a hurry to go running about after anyone anymore.
As I say, I mean, well, hopefully this video will get around a little bit, and as I say, please share it around, and perhaps we can get something moving on this, because I think we all want answers to what's going on, don't we, James?
Yes, is that. I mean, aliens have been discovered. We are not alone. End of story. It's as clear as day. It's on NASA records. I've had the finding verified. I've had it authenticated by NASA. Even though they've stopped short of coming out and saying yes, there's entities on these images, but they have informed me that yes, indeed, that is a NASA image.
Photos, yeah.
But what you actually see in these photographs matches 100% what the eyewitnesses in Illinois seen 11 days later. And when you match all this information up, you see that it's not just my word for it, you know. So as I say, I'm looking forward to putting that out. There's a lot of people out there in the UFO community just now that think I'm just full of hot air, and think I'm off my rocker. And that's fine.
James,
that's fine,
anyone that's in the UFO field, we all get told we're off our rockers by certain people, as you know. But obviously, we also know a lot of people that are not off their rockers who are very believable in the UFO field. So we're not all off our rockers at all, you know.
Aye,
I mean, I know you're not off your rocker. You might come across it sometimes.
Sometimes.
Even you'll admit that.
Did you see the video I put up on the UFO Hunters page with my hood up?
Yeah. That's just you. I mean, I know you've got a sense of humour that goes with your serious research. So that's.
I mean,
and you've got your crazy sort of sense of humour. So it doesn't take anything away from your serious.
A healthy
research.
bag of madness. I mean, the way I've.
Sorry, I was just going to say I should certainly be looking forward to your book anyway. I think it's going to be I think it's going to be quite important. You know,
it's going to be an eye opener. I mean, I've been writing recently, and I wrote that I didn't realise that when I was writing corroborating evidence that it would turn out to be the second most important UFO book ever written, only outdone by my new book, which is obviously corroborated evidence, and it's a book that delivers hard evidence of aliens. And obviously, it's the most important book ever written on UFOs and aliens because it has the proof. And that's why I've been so stressed out writing this, because I'm thinking this is the most important book ever written on UFOs, and I'm the one that's left to write it. So
and it's actually quite a big claim. It's probably quite a big claim, some people will say, but obviously you're looking at it from your point of view. As I've said before, there's been a lot of people that have claimed certain things and they just get ignored. You know, people like David Icke and stuff, and they never get taken to task as to what they're saying in a courtroom, in a court of law. Now that to me goes a long way, because they don't dare get people like that in a court of law because they know they've got all the evidence. You know, so and you could well be in the same position. I'm not talking about in a court of law. I'm talking about
But same situation. Yeah, I mean, as I said to my dad the other day, basically this doesn't end with me publishing this book. This is just the start of the next chapter in my life, and the next chapter in my life is fighting for the recognition for the research that I've put into this book.
Well, you
because
could actually start doing touring or something. You know, you should get invited to some big conferences and
it'd be
etc.
nice. Yeah. But we'll wait and see. I mean, as I say, I have no idea if Christians are going to come looking for me to stone me to death after I release what I do. Because I'm pretty sure that there will be a lot
I'll tell you what, it won't be just the Christians, will it?
No, I think pretty much. I mean, I've got NASA, ESA, the DOD, the Department of Intelligence, or you name it. I'm going to piss so many people off all at the same time. It's unbelievable. Larry Warren, Gary Heseltine included, you know. So,
oh, you might even get the UFO Truth magazine. You never know.
well, you know what? I just felt it was only fair if I was writing an honest account of my involvement in the UFO field. I felt that it was only fair that I gave a true and honest account of the way I was treated by these people several years ago. So I made a point of making a note and letting everybody know that not everybody in the UFO community is trustworthy. And
exactly. Well, it did destroy you I know for a fact it did destroy you for a couple of years, didn't it? Probably more than a couple of years, probably.
I was really. It was the levels that Larry Warren would lower himself to in order to commit a fraud, in order to sell a lie. You know, actually going out and premeditated, going out and getting a frame built and getting a plaque made, writing a letter, getting all laid out and everything. All this preparation and planning going into selling a lie just showed me the type of guy he was when it came to his claims about UFOs and aliens.
Yeah.
And that's
I'll tell you what we should, if you're up for it, James, tell you what we should do in the new year. When Capel Green comes out, supposedly at the end of December, as I keep hearing, perhaps we should do an analysis of it around about March time. Or when we've both had a chance to probably see it. I won't be buying it, but we'll probably get the chance to see it. You know, perhaps we should do a review of it, because I mean, there's nothing against that, is there? And
there's nothing wrong with you.
We'll see what was actually in the film and what they left out of it as well, which will tell a lot. And but I don't see why we can't do that. Do you?
Not at all. What I found hilarious was I was reading one of the IMDb slots or whatever, and it said, you know, we will be producing new military documents, and I had to leave a comment saying, "Aye, that's because all the other documents were found to be fraudulent." You know,
actually printed,
So
all the ones that they won't show to anybody.
Yeah, I mean, I just can't understand how they can. Larry Warren can get caught out committing a fraud on ufology, and then obviously the book get pulled, and Peter Robbins split from him. And that was that. But the fact that they think that they can just erase everything that happened and start again.
Well, he almost destroyed Peter Robbins as well. I mean, Peter was actually distraught over it, wasn't he? And you know that for a fact because he's a good friend of yours too.
Listen, David, it broke my heart. David, obviously,
and me.
Peter stayed with me for a couple of days when he came to Glasgow for the Glasgow conference in 2016. And literally, I wouldn't let him leave my house until we'd done the Blood Brothers thing, you know. So I was like, basically adopted him. I mean, honestly, I don't think I've met a human being. I've just got so much love for Peter. It's unbelievable. He's such a gentleman. He's a diamond. The guy's a diamond. And when I seen what Warren done to him and used Peter to try and climb the fame ladder, and what he done to Peter all those years lying to him. Yeah. And it was just absolutely diabolical.
Well, Peter treated him as a member of the family, didn't he? As his brother, basically.
This is it. I mean, you know, it's just...
Yeah, for somebody to tread on your friendship like that, you know, it's...
yeah. And then get given gifts, and then you're punting them.
Yeah, and you're... You know what I mean? Peter was a victim of that fraud too, wasn't he?
Yeah. And then again, you get Gary Heseltine going on radio, and he says, "Oh, these are just stories on the internet, which are lies." So Gary's going to be getting a page dedicated to him on my website as well, letting everybody see that the man is a liar.
Yeah.
And I've no hesitation about saying that. And that's why I deliberately made a point of mentioning it in our Limits magazine
Well,
article.
let's just say he's been on plenty of shows mentioning us, hasn't he? So there's no reason why we can't mention back. So.
The fact that we were basically targeted for 18 months and lies were told about us, and he knew that he was telling lies about us, and expects us to do nothing about it.
Yeah, look, let's clear up this little thing about the you mentioned you were talking now. Gary Heseltine used the excuse that you were talking about his wife. Do you remember that incident, James?
I do indeed.
Let's talk about that for anyone that might not have experienced that. Now, that was Christina George you were talking about.
Christina George. I couldn't remember her second name there.
Yeah. Yeah. And Gary Heseltine was absolutely aware that you were not talking about his wife, but he put it out that you were talking about his wife, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Because he'd already been told previously that it wasn't anything to do with his wife at all. And you just happened to mention on the Facebook page. It wasn't really for broadcast or anything like that, but you just actually made a comment about, because she'd been saying quite a lot, and you just called her a name, didn't you?
I called her a crazy crack whore,
or something like that, or skanky whore or something. Yeah,
that was I think that's how that's how I meant to word it, was crazy crack whore.
But I think when someone was looking at the comments, you could actually take it that you were talking about his wife. But in actual fact, it was made absolutely clear that it was not
funny
his
enough.
Wife. But he still went on radio shows after that clarity, and being shown evidence of that clarity. He still went on, and to basically to. Well, actually, he didn't even mention you, did he? Didn't he say that it was? I think he showed a picture of me actually, because it was on my Facebook page.
Right.
and it seemed like it was coming from me.
For you? Oh my God! Sorry, man. No,
that's all right.
what it was is Christina George had been involved in a scandal some years beforehand where she'd ended up in hospital, and she'd taken pictures of herself in hospital, and she said that she needed all sorts of money for an operation, and it turned out that it was a big scam, and there was crack involved somewhere down the line. There was stuff going on, and basically she was exposed as being a total scam artist. And that's when she reinvented herself under a different name. I think she's Christina George now, but beforehand she was known as Christina something or other else.
Yeah, something else, yeah.
So basically she'd made out that our sister was a crazy crack whore or something like that. And
I think there was jewellery involved in it as well, weren't there?
It was that long ago, but she basically got caught out in some scam, and I remember that there was meant to be crack or something like that involved, and jewellery, I think you were right, went missing, and all sorts.
Yeah, and property, something to do with property and
but
jewellery.
The thing is, I had got in touch with Christina prior to all this kicking off, and I'd said to her that, look, Warren's lying. I sent her all the evidence, and she
we all did. Well, we were all showing her evidence.
So she knew that Warren was at it, but she decided to go for the whole publicity angle and think, well, this is going to be really controversial, so I'll get Larry on as a guest.
That's right. Just which was a car crash. It was a complete car crash.
So she suddenly decided to side with him, and then that's when I made the comment along the lines of crazy crack here, and it was just a throwback.
That's
to
right.
This
I've got to say, James, I think that was about the last radio show he did, wasn't it? I don't think he's been on anymore since, has he? I don't think they'll have him on anywhere else. I think that was such a car crash, wasn't it? That they're frightened to let him on anywhere else.
Oh God!
Apart from on Gary Heseltine videos.
Apologies to you and everyone else that was offended by my comments at the time. I was still wired.
You were wired. I know you were.
I was emotionally. I was like the old Atari game with the tennis. That was me. I was just beep, beep, beep. and my head was all over the place for quite a while with the
Yeah.
Warren scandal.
Well, you and I was
Um,
talking quite a lot. I know some other people got upset about things, but I kind of saw what was going on. I know you were very quite distraught about
I'm
what
trying to
happened.
remember.
Once I tried to explain to you that, you know,
Aye.
I tried to tell you what happened, and you went, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry,"
Oh no, I
you
know.
know, and
But it's funny you saying that because I came across the screensaver comments I actually sent to his wife and I said, listen, I'm not happy about the way that
that's
my
right.
name's
You contacted her.
bandied
I
about.
contacted her.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
I'm like, I've got nothing against you. I can't remember her name now, if it's Vicky or whatever her name is. But I was like, I've got
yeah,
nothing
I can't.
against you whatsoever, but I do have a problem with your name, your husband using your name as a political football.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? To try and win brownie points with the UFO community. So basically, I mean, you know yourself, it boiled down to two camps a few years ago. It was all the truth seekers against all the Warrenites.
Yeah.
And the Warrenites, basically, you go to any of their videos, they would close off their comments. They would not engage with
It's
you or
right.
me.
Yeah.
We offered to debate them hundreds of times. Well, not hundreds of times, but it was an open invitation to debate them.
Well, if you
And it was
remember,
never
at one time, I had sent out an invite to actually book a hall, book a venue,
right.
to have you and Peter, and we would debate Larry Warren and Gary Heseltine on stage. But that was,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, you can't get any better than that, can you?
No, no.
You know, and I actually invited Gary Heseltine on my radio show a couple of times. He refused that as well. So there you go. So
yeah, what a letdown that man was,
and
still remains to be.
yeah. Anyway, I guess we better leave it there, James. But I
Not a
think
problem.
I think what we'll do, we'll make a date and we will do that Cable Green review show in the new year when we both had a chance to see it.
Come get some.
And
Come get some.
just when we know what's in it.
Huh?
When we know what's in it.
Too much apocalypse now. Eh?
But before that, but until then, we will keep an eye. You know, we'll keep an eye out for your book that's coming out. I'll as soon as it comes out, I'll be putting out adverts and like plugging it and that, so let everyone know it's out and everything. But until then, James, it's been great talking to you. Thanks for coming on. And
not a problem. Cheers for
I know you're just as confused as everybody else about what's going on. Maybe one day.
Yeah,
it's
like I've answered the big question, but now a million more questions now need answered. Last week, 2 weeks ago, literally, I will not be happy unless I see the White House press sitting asking Joe Biden what's going on with this new evidence.
And you've got to ask, why are they not getting in touch? The big why.
Mm-hmm.
And as I always say, there's a why in everything now, because that's my catchphrase now.
So we'll see how it goes, Davey. But yeah, December the 25th, I'm hoping to have the book out for then. If not, it's going to be available for pre-order from December the 1st on the website anyway.
That's great, yeah.
So
you have to keep us in touch, and
fingers crossed.
I know it's going to do well. And don't forget, Peter Robbins is coming over in March, I believe it is. No, not March.
March.
Is it March? No, I don't think it is.
I'm not too sure if it's May or
I've
March.
forgotten that. But anyway, I'll let you know. But he'll be coming over.
I know.
Hopefully, you better get down to Hull to come and see him.
It'd be worth a wee joint to come down and see
and we can all have a drink and a cake and all that together, and we'll get to see each other.
We can have a disclosure cake. Aye. That'll be interesting. I'm looking forward to that. So yeah.
And hopefully we'll all be having a good old discussion about the film as well. No doubt.
Yeah, we'll see who picked it up the cheapest in the Poundland. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, we'll wait and see.
Anyway, James, look, I'm going to leave it there. Let you go. Thank you very much.
Cheers for having me.
It's been great. It's been great having you. And to say, we'll be in touch anyway, and we'll do. We'll no doubt be doing a couple more shows about stuff.
Yeah,
before we haven't even mentioned the pyramids on this show, have we?
No, we haven't even got to the pyramids yet, but that's all right. They can wait another day.
Yeah, I think we needed to stick to the corroborated evidence show, really.
Yeah.
let you know that something big is coming.
Something big, aye. But what I can't go over is how accurately I used to draw these guys. And
Yeah.
that's I'm pretty convinced now.
Yeah.
Obviously, with the time
Strange, isn't it?
factors
Yeah.
on it.
Yeah.
I thought, wait a minute, I was drawing these guys down to a T for years. So I just need to
Yeah.
get the scale
It's something
proper.
weird, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, and so all this nonsense you hear about are aliens living amongst us, all I can say is it'd be pretty effing hard. Because they're about 8 foot tall and they're blue, they've got big massive eyes and you can't miss them. So it'd be pretty hard for them to live amongst us. Unless obviously they are living and you know,
Well, they
crafted
shape
construct
shifting.
yards under the
Are they
water
able
and
to
all that.
shape shift, which is a whole other story, isn't it?
Well, funny enough, there was a girl in Fife, I think it was last night, put up a post saying that she'd seen a triangle formation of lights last night.
Right.
She really freaked out by it. So I was like, I'll keep my eyes on, you know, it's not that far away, you know. It's all right, it's far away enough, but
Yeah.
it's just that time of year again where you're getting lovely, dark, perfect nights and they're great for seeing stuff, you know.
You'll
So
be seeing
hopefully
Santa Claus going across the sky soon.
this is it, aye, and Santa will be tracking, NASA will be tracking him again, eh? So, who knows if he will be making an appearance this Christmas, you know? So
Yeah,
I
that's
reckon,
right.
I reckon he will be, you know.
Yeah.
And I'll be heading to the SPI talk with Malcolm Robinson next week.
Oh, are
I think
you?
it is,
That'll be interesting.
the
Yeah.
A70 talk. So I'm going to get my train ticket booked in advance for that and make a point of going through to that. Because obviously by the time I go through to that, the information will have hit the public.
Yeah.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see him, obviously, because I haven't seen him in a few years. So
that's right.
And obviously,
it's an interesting talk as well. It'll give on the podcast.
Yeah, because my own encounters have got a connection to the 70 case with regards to the wall of light.
Well, the thing is, you may well be doing a presentation up with Malcolm at some point with a bit of luck.
I can see it in the not too far future. So yeah, and Malcolm's writing a review for my new book, so I'm totally indebted to him and Ron, who's doing my introduction.
Yeah.
So I'm indebted to the two of them for contributing to my small
Great
contribution
news.
to ufology. My small contribution. So we'll wait and see how it goes. But yeah, so fingers crossed, Davey.
Yeah. Anyway, James, you take care of yourself, mate. And as I say, we'll do it again. And thanks for coming on. Thanks for finding the time again. And I'm quite enjoying these video shows now. It's something different, isn't it?
I've been. That's the first time I've used Zoom, so it's been quite good so far. No interruptions or anything. So
yeah,
all good.
Catching up with technology.
Aye, slowly but surely.
All right, cheers, James. Morning, go. You take care of yourself, mate.
I'll catch you shortly.
Bye bye. Bye bye.
Cheers again for your company tonight.
Yeah.
Talk to you
Sorry, mate. Go and have a beer.
I'm literally across the road for the pub, and that's exactly where I'm going just now.
All right, everyone for me.
I really need a pint. Just to calm down now. So I'm going to go and do that.
Good. All right, mate. You should
come back in and try and get some work done with my eyes crossed.
All right. Cheers, mate.
All right, bud. I'll catch you soon, David.
Take care.
Right.
Cheers, mate.
See you later on.
Bye-bye.
See you later on. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. That's my sister does it all the time, mate. She's like, bye.
Oh, there you go. I hope you enjoyed that talk with James. Very interesting. I think there's some big things coming along, and we'll just keep our eyes open and see what happens, because there's a lot going on in the world at the moment, and I just don't know where we're going. But anyway, thanks for watching, and please share this video. And I think James needs to get the word out. So I think that's the easiest way of describing it. Thank you. Good night, and thanks for watching. Bye-bye. And don't forget, there's a Y in everything.
And I agree that it will be science that makes the discovery. And I think the next generation of telescopes that are being built might help us answer that question one way or the other. If there are civilizations out there with brains, one thing they might be doing is TV and radio, because it's quite a logical thing. And the next generation of radio telescopes should pick that up.
Is it possible, though, that, you know, life, intelligent life has evolved beyond that, as perhaps we're evolving towards computers, and they look nothing like us at all, and they don't need to look like us?
That's very possible as well. And in fact, I went to a scientific conference in 2010 when I heard a NASA former chief historian say, we may be in a largely post-biological universe. And he was talking about artificial intelligence. And that might, of course, be a way that life forms could survive the rigors of space, whether it's the time involved to travel or indeed hostile things like cosmic rays.
Do you think it is still a toss-up that there's life other than what we know about on Earth?
I actually agree that there is probably going to be a universe teeming full of life, unless we thought there was something unique about Earth, unless we thought that life here was some sort of miracle, whether religious or secular. Really, the factors that gave rise to life here should replicate throughout the cosmos, and I think it is just a matter of time till we find them, or maybe they find us.
I mean, you look into UFOs and things like that. What, in your view, is the best evidence we've had of there being some kind of extraterrestrial life?
Well, most of the sightings we looked at were misidentifications, but the believers only need to be right once. And we did, in the Ministry of Defence, have some cases where these things were seen by pilots, simultaneously tracked on radar, and where we got some very good photos and videos that even defense intelligence staff specialists couldn't debunk. So in amongst the Chinese lanterns and the weather balloons, there is some good stuff in the files too, so who knows?
And the pictures and descriptions of people who claim that they've been abducted by aliens give of the creatures that abducted them tend to be fairly consistent. Is that simply sort of crowdsourcing of information, do you think?
I think it could be people just picking up on the memes that they see in sci-fi movies. Maybe the reality is stranger than we could ever imagine. But I mean, I think that question of whether or not we're alone is one of the biggest and most profound questions we can ask. And I really think it's one of those questions where we might genuinely, sooner rather than later, get a definitive answer.